Have you ever made a mistake at work and you've wondered, is this going to haunt me forever? Yeah, it could, unless you do these 5 things to make sure that it doesn't. You need to get yourself back on track, and I'm going to tell you how. First, make sure you understand the impact of the mistake that you've made. It can be so easy. It's very understandable to want to shy away from it and maybe not see how bad the impact is, but you can't really fix it if you don't know what all the impact is. And in order to assess that impact, make sure that you understand, like, how does it impact your team? How does it impact your company? If you're working with clients, how does it impact the clients? So when we talk about the impact on other people can be financial, it can be emotional, it can be logistical. Let's say that they have to do more work because you've made the mistake, or it can be something a little bit less tangible like brand or reputation. So make sure that you accurately take a look at who all is impacted and how. The best thing you can do is ask. Go to the primary accountable people. That could be an account representative, it could be your boss, and make sure that you understand, hey, I know this is serious and I'd love to better understand what all the impacts are so I can learn from this. So when you do that, you're expressing obviously a willingness to learn, but also that you care about the impact. And for your own sake, you do need to understand what the impact is. And again, it can be really understandable that it's hard to confront the impact of a mistake you've made. But if you don't, you're never really truly going to fully learn from that mistake, and you can't do the next steps that are on the list. The second thing you need to do is apologize genuinely and sincerely. So make a list of anybody who's impacted by your mistake and go to them and sincerely apologize and be very genuine and say, I know this was a mistake. The mistake was mine. I am very sorry this happened, and I'm working to make sure it doesn't happen again. Most people, even if in the moment they're still a little cranky with what happened, will forgive you, and more importantly, they'll understand that you want to correct this and that you are working to make sure it doesn't happen again. And if you do have a client that's impacted, make sure that you're working with the account person on that apology, because depending on how serious that mistake was and how much it's impacted the client, the account rep or account manager may need to do damage control themselves, and a direct apology may not be the appropriate thing. So make sure you're working with your leadership to know, is it okay if I apologize directly to the client, and what form that apology should take. Next, make sure that you are fixing or correcting your mistake or making reparations in some way. So depending on what the mistake was, it either needs to be actually corrected in the moment, like if you did something wrong on a presentation or a piece of code, you need to actually go fix it, right? Or if it's a mistake that's happened already and it's already been fixed and corrected, how can you make reparations? Like, can you offer to work extra? Can you volunteer to do the next weekend go live? Or can you offer additional help in some way to make up for the fact that you've created this impact? So make sure that, again, you work with your leadership on what correct reparations would look like, but definitely express a genuine willingness to make those corrections and make those reparations, and make sure that you follow through on it. I think we've all been in team situations where somebody on our team has made a mistake, and we want to give them grace and we want to forgive them, but we also want to make sure that they're an active part of fixing the issue that they've caused in some way. Let's say that you've missed an important client presentation, then you might need to schedule a follow-up, or you might need to offer to take the next client presentation and make sure that you follow through on that. So the first 3 are the easy ones. The fourth one is a little bit harder for most people, because if you really genuinely feel bad, and that's coupled with a lot of fear about how it's going to impact you at work or affect your career, it's very easy to keep talking about it. But once you've apologized, once you've made reparations, it is very important that you don't keep the issue alive by continuing to belabor the point. Don't go talk to 20 more people about it. Don't keep going back and distracting everybody by continuing to discuss the issue. Make sure that you just let the issue breathe a little bit, give it some space, let it rest, and frankly, let it blow over, if you've already done the work you need to do to correct it and to apologize to the impacted people. That's the best thing you can do, is let everybody move on from it. Otherwise, you're keeping the mistake alive in everybody's heads. That is going to continue to damage your reputation at work. Also, I've been as a leader in situations where people have made mistakes and they just keep coming back and trying to talk to me about it. And I'm like, hey, I already had to live through the mistake with you. I already had to coach you through it. I already had to apologize to the client or the other teams in our company that were impacted. Now you're putting more demands on my time and attention because you feel bad about it and you want me to make you feel better. That is how that comes across, even though it's not intended. And again, you're just perpetuating the issue by continuing to take up company resources by talking about it after it's over. So let it be over for everyone. And the last thing is super, super important, which is to make sure it doesn't happen again. Now you're aware this mistake is possible. Hopefully you understand the ramifications of the mistake so you know how serious it is. So it's one thing to have done this thing unknowingly or by accident, but now that you're aware, it is especially important that you don't make this mistake again. People will not be as forgiving a second time, and frankly, they shouldn't be, because you're there to support the company, your team. Again, if you have clients, you're supposed to support the client, and if you keep making this mistake, unfortunately, you may be a risk or a liability to the company and to your team and costing more than you're contributing. Nobody wants to be that person. And so make sure that you're especially mindful of what caused the situation to happen, how you might have been susceptible to making that mistake, and how you can manage yourself in a different way so you don't make that mistake again. So at this point, it's especially important to understand the mistake itself and not shy away from how you got there. Just like it's important to not shy away from the impact, it's really important to take a critical eye on yourself and ask yourself, why did that happen? So I'm going to use a few examples that I've seen happen a few times, which is that people miss deadlines. So if you have missed a very critical deadline and that's the mistake, then you need to ask yourself, am I overcommitted? Did I not ask for help early enough? Did I not allocate enough time to this activity? Did I let myself get distracted? Did I procrastinate too much? So if you've missed a deadline, there's so many things you could have done along the way to prevent that. And it's super important to know that if that's genuinely where the mistake came from, you have to ask yourself how you got yourself in that situation and what actions you can take to do differently with it next time. And it's really good to have that as a follow-up with your leader, whether that's your account leader or your people manager, and talk about it in a one-on-one where there's already committed time, so you're not taking up additional time, but just be sure to say, hey, I'm going to make sure that next time I escalate earlier, ask for help earlier, or make sure that I don't overcommit. It happens. Just make sure it doesn't happen again. Fundamentally, a mistake doesn't have to hurt your entire career, and it won't, as long as you apologize, fix it, and make sure it doesn't happen again. It's pretty simple. What makes it less simple is our own feelings about it, because our feelings are getting in the way of being able to see things clearly and do then the clear processing about the issue. And so I'm going to go back to something that I've said a few times on She Makes It Work, which is it's really important to see yourself as both a feeling person and a thinking person, and make sure that you can set those feelings aside in order to do that critical thinking that it's going to take to be self-aware and make changes to your behavior so that you don't make these mistakes again. And it's when your earlier career, the good news is a lot of times your mistakes are a lot less impactful. So while it can feel heavier and kind of more doom and gloom, and it's really easy to panic about it, it's going to be okay. New people make mistakes. So if you're in your earlier part of your career or you're in a new role, please know other people give you grace and they will understand that you're going to make a mistake. The important thing is that you learn from it and that you demonstrate that you've learned from it. So don't let yourself spiral. Now, if you do have these feelings about it, that's okay too. Just make sure to set them aside, journal about it, and don't make your feelings the problem of the people you work with, because that should be something that you deal with in private. You can tell people, I feel really bad about this and I'm really sorry. That's okay. But don't keep talking about how your mistake has impacted you when it's impacted a bunch of other people, because then you're centering yourself, and that's not something that you want to do when you're trying to correct a mistake and making sure that it doesn't impact your brand at work, because your brand will be impacted if, unfortunately, you do take that perspective of you just keep talking about how your mistake has affected you personally. I hope that was helpful. If you have more questions about recovering from mistakes at work or how not to make mistakes, please let me know. I'm happy to do another video. This is obviously a pretty quick topic because this is a very simple process as long as you do it. So let me know in the comments if you've got questions or challenges that you want me to help you with. And otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.